Hey, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to concentrate on the feedback that I received from all my social media and the video from last week talking about my first in the field test with the equipment that I unboxed a few weeks ago. So first, I'd like to address a few things. There were comments about softness. My intention wasn't to do any focus stacking. For one, the D600 has very limited focusing points. They're all centered right in the middle of the sensor. And if you haven't noticed, these are my computer glasses. These are my everyday out in the wild glasses. And yes, they're progressives. I'm admitting it. I'm blind. I'm old. Okay? So I don't rely on my eyes to do critical focus. I can't do that. I used to be able to do manual focus, but I don't rely on that as much as I do on my sensor. It's not like an edge-to-edge mirrorless camera, which there may be some videos coming out about that experimentation later on, maybe next month. We'll see how things go, because I am starting to think it's time to up the game a little bit with some newer gear that can help me do things that I really want to accomplish in my images. It's not because I have gas, it's because I have a almost 10-year-old camera, which it's time to start thinking about upgrading. So basically, I was looking at, getting at least one area of the image in good focus from last week. I wasn't looking at focus front to back across the whole focal plane of the image. That's why some of the images do seem a little soft. So the first photo we showed last week was the Nikon 105 micro, which I kept calling a macro lens, which it is. Nikon just likes to use the micro terminology instead of macro for some reason. It's relatively sharp even at f3.2. That is the f-stop that the lens chose when I tried to set it to f2.8, because I wanted to get a little bit of blur so that we could see how sharp the lens is at its widest aperture, right? So there's considerable blur in certain areas, but the image overall is sharp. Now for a micro or macro lens, the 105 is nice. I've used it for portraits and it's smooth. It's a good lens. I shot a couple with the 105 macro or micro. They came out fairly in focus. That lens is what, about $900. I'll put the actual price in. The variety of things that you're going to do with it isn't that big. So that's the other reason for using like the Nissi close-up filter, which this is not a sponsored video. I invested my own money in doing this experiment just to see what would suit my needs. It may not work for you. Okay, so just keep that grain of salt in the back of your head that this is my opinion and this is how I think it will work for me. And do I want to spend $900 on a lens, or do I want to spend $150 for a screw-on filter that does almost as good a job? So enough about the 105 micro from Nikon. It is a $900 lens roughly. You can get it used for a little less, and there's nothing wrong with buying used gear. So my 85 millimeter f1.8 is my portrait lens. It is my go-to portrait lens. Unless I'm doing a wedding or I know well in advance I have a shoot, then I'll rent a 70-200 2.8 so that I've got more range. But the 85 is a sweet piece of glass, and here again, it's not over $1,000. So, and when I got it, I bought the D600 and 2 kit lenses with it, and then got a deal on the 85. So I don't even think I paid full price for it at the time. So the 85 with the screw-on Nissi close-up filter, it did pretty good. I mean, it held its own against the 105 in these photos, I think. And for the cost difference, it's worth it. Sometimes you got to think about how often are you going to do something. Do you want to carry that extra lens around that weighs considerably more than that filter? That filter is light compared to the 105 micro. So that's another consideration that I've got going forward with this decision. So the 85 looks good. The thing that really got interesting was, and I think a lot of you guys noticed this, when I slapped the 70 to 300 kit lens on at f5.6 and put the extension tubes on it, it almost mirrored the 105 at 300 mil in focus. The big noticeable difference is with the extension tubes on, because the extension tubes are extending the distance from the sensor to the back of the lens element, you get a real harsh vignetting in the corners. That's a drawback. Yes, you can crop it out in post, but it was very close in sharpness and quality of the image overall, I thought. Then I decided I was going to slap on the Nissi close-up filter, and this one got really artistic. And the big drawback with having the extension tubes on, because I had a 12 millimeter, a 24 millimeter, can't remember. Hang on, let me go grab. Got the camera too, just in case you wanted to see the camera again, right? So these are the extension tubes that I used last week. I got a 12, a 20, and a 36 millimeter extension tube set. And I slapped all of these on with the 300 mil lens, right? So that meant my lens was hanging off, well, pretty much by the depth of the 85 millimeter here. So, you know, you slap this thing on there, and now you've got this flimsy thing in your mount on the body and on the lens mount. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was very secure. These tubes, I believe, cost under $80. Am I going to trust a $500? No, actually, I think that's a $700 lens. The 70 to 300 is a $700 lens, roughly, when I bought it, to this. And even worse, would I trust a 70 to 200 2.8, you know, $2,400 lens to this? I mean, this is $70 and it's plastic. It does allow you to do your autofocusing with the camera. So it's not like it's bad. It's just not built rugged enough. I would almost prefer a lens mount so that you can mount the tripod over this so that your weight is balanced. So that's the drawback to the extension tubes in my mind, especially with the 70 to 300, because to actually get that really cool close-up effect that I was going for, that artsy effect, I had to use all three of these bad boys. Yeah. So that last image, you know, had these and the Nissi close-up filter attached, and there's focus in there. You're actually seeing a very small portion of the original image. It's kind of scary how close it got. I mean, it was considerably closer than the 105, and it was actually inside a couple of the curls in this bark, which made for a really cool effect. That's pretty much my thoughts and my takes on how last week went. I also personally feel, and this is my personal opinion, so, you know, don't agree with it, go ahead, leave me a comment down below. Just know that I respect your opinion as much as I hope you respect mine. That I think that nowadays we place a little too much emphasis on total sharpness in an image throughout. Sometimes I think you need that blur or that bokeh to leave something to the imagination or to make it look a little bit more artful in my mind. A lot of my images are critically sharp front to back, and I don't generally do focus stacking. So in some of the comments, I talked about doing some focus stacking and trying that out and testing it. And in next week's video, I talk a little bit about it. It's just, I'm trying to do this on the side. I work a 40 to 80 hour a week job and try to do photography as a second job. I know I'm crazy. And on top of it, I've thrown YouTube in the mix, and you guys have been great, which I totally appreciate all the support everyone's given. I love the feedback that we're getting. I like the conversations we're having, so let's keep them going. Down the road, yeah, focus stacking will probably be a video. From reviewing most of the comments that came in from social media and the video itself last week, looks like the consensus was number 5 was the image that everyone liked. I like it as well. I also like the way that the 8518 and that Nissi filter work together, and we're probably going to see some more of those next week. If you haven't yet done so, please leave a comment down below telling me where I'm wrong even, because I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong, and I would like to have a little bit more discussion on my usage of the macro equipment that we've been using. Leave that comment down below. If you haven't yet done so, please hit that subscribe button, ding the bell for future notifications. That will help me out a lot here on the channel. And if you like this video, give me a big thumbs up. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.